Excuse me, can you please help teach me how to identify the domain and range of functions from graphs? Oh, you want to learn that? Just watch this video to find out. Several students over the period of time have found difficulties finding the domain and range of functions from graphs. In this video, you are going to learn how to use the graph of a function to find its domain and range. So we have two graphs on the board and we want to find the domain and range of these graphs. Now recall that the domain of a function is a set of possible x values, while the range is a set of possible y values. So let's look at this function. The graph of f of x, so the graph of f of x is in this pattern. It's like this, and then it comes like this. So it begins from here, and then it ends right here. So what do you think is the domain of this function? So since the domain is the x values, we will start from the left hand side, because normally when we write a particular inequality in interval notation, we always write the least number to the left hand side and write the greatest number to the right hand side. So the domain of this function, it starts from -3 on the x-axis. So it starts from -3, but it's inclusive. So I'm going to use bracket. -3, come on. And where does the graph end? It ends with 2. 2. But 2 is not included within the graph. So it's -3, 2, parenthesis closes. And this is the domain of this graph in interval notation. We also write this in inequality notation, and it is your responsibility to do that. Now, let's find the range. So this is the domain. So the range of this function will be the set of all y values. So where is the y value starting from? It always starts from, again, the negative infinitive to go to positive infinitive, right? So you start from the least number to the highest. So for the y value, there's a y-axis. Always focus on the y-axis. What is the least number for this function in this graph? The least number is -3. But -3 is not included. -3 is not included, so we have -3 to what? To here is somewhere around between 2 and 3. So we'll say that's 2.5. So it's -3, 2.5, and 2.5 is included. So we close the bracket on 2.5. So the domain is a set of x values. You look at the x coordinate of that particular graph and write the domain. And the range, you look at the y coordinate of the graph and write the range. Now let's move to the second question. We want to find the domain of this function. Remember, this is a graph of the absolute value function. And we did not calibrate the axis, but then we give you a rough sketch of the graph. This is the form in which the graph will look like. So to find the domain of this function, we again start on the x-axis, and we start from the left, which is the smallest number in this case. So in this case, the domain will be, so you see the graph goes to negative infinitive. So this arrow sign shows that the graph continues to go like this. So as the graph continues to go like this, you have a corresponding x value. So it starts from negative infinitive. So we say parentheses open negative infinitive, and for the positive x, it goes to positive infinitive. Positive infinitive. This is the domain of the absolute value function. Negative infinitive to positive infinitive, x values. What about the range? Now the range of this function is the set of y values, right? So look at this graph. What is the y value? Again, we start from the least to the greatest. But we see that the graph doesn't come below the x-axis. The graph is above the x-axis, but it starts from 0. So the range will be 0 inclusive, 0, and where does it go? It goes to infinity. So as this particular graph continues to go like this, it will have corresponding y values. So this goes to infinity, and the y value goes to infinity. X and y goes to infinity here. Therefore, the range is 0, infinity. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how we find domain and range from graphs. Let's look at a few more examples and give you practice questions to do. So for example 3, we will look at a graph of y equals x and identify the domain and range. So what is the domain of this function? Pause the video and give the question a try, both questions, and when you are done, play the video to see our answer. So the domain of question number 3 or graph 3 in this particular scenario is the domain. Now, what we observe is that the domain starts. So what happens here is that the graph continually goes down to negative infinity. Because remember, negative infinity is on this side. So as the graph continually goes down like this, it starts to go to negative infinity. So it comes from negative infinity. The domain is negative infinity, and then it goes to positive infinity. As the graph goes like this, it has corresponding x values. So if this continues, the x value is continuous. If it continues up, x value continues, and so on. So negative infinity, infinity is the domain of this graph. What is the range? Set of y values. So for the y, again, it came from negative infinity for the y. This is the y-axis. So if this graph is constructed such that it continues in this direction, y will continue to increase in the negative direction. So it starts from negative infinity, and then it goes to positive infinity. So this is the domain of y equals x, and this is the range of the exact same function. Let's look at this. This is the graph of y equals to x cubed. So the domain of this graph, again, it starts from negative infinity. So the domain is negative infinity, and it goes upward to infinity. And the range is from negative infinity as well, negative infinity, and it also goes to infinity. So this is how we find domain and range of functions from graphs. So we'll give you as a practice question, and then we move onward to close this particular video. As a practice, you are going to do these 2 questions and post your answer in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.